Okay, I'm not going to lie, this was one of the weaker episodes of Mirai-Hen as far as it goes. I mean, there were some great moments, don't get me wrong. Makoto versus Munakata, one of the best things of the series so far. Just the fight itself was amazing, how it kept going as a game of cat and mouse, and then got down the dialogue. When it got down to the dialogue, it was so well written, it was so deep, where a lot of visual metaphors going on, that was amazing. But I mean, there were things that let this episode down, including the ridiculous use of cliffhangers. I mean, 3 cliffhangers in one episode. One for the commercial break when Munakata was about to swing down his sword. The second one for the end of the main story when Asahina was like, I know who the attacker is, and held up the book that really should have been read immediately. And then the final one for the end of the after credit scene where it was just literally one boat leaving the island. And we were like, okay, yes, Jabberwock Island still exists. We know. We've been waiting for that. So, I mean, that combined with the fact that the first 3.5 minutes of this episode, I mean, we had a cute little shout back to Danganronpa 1, which was amazing, with Kirigiri going down to save Makoto. But then there was another 2.5 minutes that was pretty much just exactly the same as the end of the last episode. There was a tiny bit added to it. But pretty much just a recap of the last episode with Makoto getting serious. So yeah, a bit of a mixed bag. But now we're getting on to the proper review. It was still a good episode. Like I said, I enjoyed it. Because my god. That goddamn Munakata versus Makoto fight. It went on for so long. Pretty much the whole episode. I mean, leading up to it, you had Naegi and Munakata each talking about their ideals, talking about their views on hope, talking about how they were going to take each other out. And that was cool as it was. You had Naegi tearing up, but not showing it in front of anyone. Like, even though he teared up at the end of the last episode, he wiped it away before he stood up. Even when he was getting pissed off, when you had, like, Ryota asking him, how can you move on that quickly? Wasn't she your friend? Like, he was ready to punch him at that point. But when he turned around, he'd fixed himself. He was all calm and composed, and he chilled with everything. He was able to handle that really well. He was only crying when he was out in the hallways by himself and no one else was around to see him. So Makoto has become a serious man in this episode. And the words that they were sharing before they even met each other were amazing as it was. Because you had Munakata, who was constantly talking about how he wants to take Naegi out. We had this general idea that Munakata wanted to kill pretty much everyone in the building. And he was pretty much saying that in this. He was going through it and saying, even if I am the only one who survives this, this will continue. Like, talking as if it's just on him and he's going to kill everyone else. The weirdest thing about this is the way that Munakata words his final statement, though. I mean, when it comes down to them both talking about what they're going to do to each other, Munakata says he's going to save Naegi. He uses that word, as if killing Naegi is his way of saving him, releasing him from despair. And then we also have Naegi just straight up saying he'll stop Munakata. It was a weird juxtaposition with Munakata, who was only really thinking about it from the despair side. He was talking about how despair infects and spreads, and Naegi was talking about how hope is passed on to him from his friends. It was showing how, even though they were both looking towards hope and looking towards being good and doing good for the world, like, Makoto was really thinking about it in a positive way, getting hope from your friends, using that to change the world. Whereas Munakata was imagining trying to fight the Zetsubo, the despair that's already in the world, and just trying to destroy it and get rid of it. Because obviously, as we found out in this episode, Chisa shit went down, man. But yeah, once they actually met up, it was so much better. The fight was so intense. I never thought Makoto Naegi, for one, would figure out Munakata's code. That was sick as it was. The way he dashed through the door. I mean, he must have been holding on to that for a while. He didn't tell anyone. I'm not sure if that was like a last moment realization for him, or if he had figured it out and just hadn't openly told everyone. Oh, by the way, if you run into Munakata, I think his own G code is he can't open doors. So, I mean, that could have been useful information for everyone. But I mean, anyway, he handled it so damn well. He led him down to that area where there was literally only one door out, solid walls on other side. He can't get out unless Makoto Naegi opens the door. That was an incredible plan, and not something I expected from Naegi. I'm not going to lie. Although I like Naegi, that seems more like something Hajime Hinata would do. Hajime Hinata was always very good at plotting and planning things, even before Izuru came into it. Makoto Naegi, on the other hand, good with words, and that was definitely shown off in this episode, but damn, that was some good deduction skills as well, some good planning. I mean, even before that, when he like set a fire in the small room before Munakata got to him, put the sprinklers on, and then ripped the wires out of the wall and tried to electrocute him. Again, incredible. Not something you'd expect from Makoto Naegi, showing how much he's grown up in this time that we haven't seen him, acting like the Makoto Naegi we saw come at the end of Danganronpa 2, where he felt like a man, he was decisive, he was moving towards action. Whereas the whole way through this third series, he's just literally been being carried around by Asahina and not really figuring anything out himself, just going from place to place trying to survive, and being constantly told by people, "You're the hope, Naegi, you'll definitely save us," even though he hadn't done anything up to this point. So yeah, it was incredible seeing that. And Munakata countering everything. I mean, when he threw his sword down, turned the heat on, and just evaporated all that water that Makoto had tried to electrocute him with. That was so sick. He just like drops down from the ceiling, reclaims his sword, and then shoots Naegi with the goddamn Chusen. Oh man. So damn intense, so damn cool. I was wondering when that was going to come up, because he's had that from Tengen for so many episodes now. So little has been going on while all these revelations have been coming out. Oh man. So yeah, that whole fight was incredible. Naegi then using his ultimate luck to the fullest. I mean, it was Fire Extinguisher Kun's real time to shine. I mean, Fire Extinguisher Kun needs a title role in this anime, because between Zetsubo-Hen and Mirai-Hen, we've had fire extinguishers being used as weapons 4 different times. First when like Kyoko sprayed it to get everyone out of the room. Then we had Asahina throw a freaking fire extinguisher. In the last episode of Zetsubo, we had Chisa throw a fire extinguisher at Junko. And then finally in this one, it became the true hero. Like, missed Munakata, but then started to set off and exploded and smacked him in the back of the head. And clouded up the room, letting Naegi jump onto him. So yeah, Makoto Naegi's ultimate luck finally came into play again. It seems like it really has this weird opposite kind of effect of Komaeda's. Whereas Komaeda's will give him good luck and then the bad luck will come later. Makoto Naegi's always starts with the bad luck and then comes with the good luck after. Oh man, I love that. That was just a great little shout back moment. And then we had the proper conversation between the two. When Makoto Naegi did call him out and said, "You ain't leaving this room unless you talk to me." That was sick. Munakata at first seemed like he didn't give a shit. He was choking him out in the air. Man. And then he got really pissed when Makoto did start to talk about hope and friends and Kyoko Kirigiri. Oh man. Munakata got so pissed, started beating the shit out of him. Screaming how he didn't understand. Talking about how Chisa had been corrupted and he had to get rid of all of the despair no matter what, even if it came down to him killing Chisa, killing Juzo, killing everyone in the Future Foundation. And Naegi showed off just how powerful his hope was. The fact that it wasn't just he wanted to save people, but even if his friends had fallen to despair, he'd still care for them. The idea that he'd never want to forget Kyoko Kirigiri. I mean, those words were so damn good, man. Just straight up, if Kirigiri had turned in despair and betrayed everyone, I'd still have been glad we met. Oh man, he was crying his eyes out at the same time with blood dripping down his face. It was so sad. I actually really loved Naegi at that point. I mean, the ship was so damn real. Still a possibility that she can be saved, but it's looking less and less likely. But man, even Munakata felt the feels. He started to realise there that words really do have power. I mean, he said it constantly. Even in this episode, he was continuing to say, "Your words don't have power." Naegi was saying, "No, that's bullshit. Words can change things." So it was so good seeing Naegi's words actually get through to him. Having Munakata, like, remember the happy times with Chisa. Scream out her name. And her first name. He said Chisa. He didn't just say Yukizome. I mean, that was the thing. When he finally lost Chisa, I think that's when he realized how much she meant to him. And that's why when he went back and stabbed her in the chest, he used her first name then, because to me that was him realizing how much he had cared for her and realizing he wished he had called her that. Giving up on that past version of Chisa and realizing that there was also this despair-filled version of Chisa that he didn't like. And that was one thing that really crushed me, seeing those pictures where it had her like how happy with the children, pretending to be all hope-filled, just like we've seen in the last episode of Zetsubo-Hen, like the real despair-filled version where it turned out she'd killed all of those elementary school kids and taken a picture of it, like literally written on it, it was me in like her cute speaking way just to crush Munakata. And I don't even know when he got these pictures. That's what I'm wondering as well. I'm not sure if they were on Chisa's body and he found them because obviously he was the initial one to look after Chisa's body, to put her down on the ground, to take the knife out of her before Kirigiri even did her autopsy. He might have found them then. Or I still believe in my theory a little bit. I still believe that he was the one who took out Chisa. That there are two attackers that awake each time. I mean, there are hints towards that with Tengen, but that's not what matters now. No. Thing is, it was crushing him. He had that memory of like a bright and beautiful Chisa, and he was still talking about wanting to erase that because he doesn't want to feel the pain. Because he's basically running away from his own despair. He's only looking at the despair. He can't like get rid of that but remember the hope-filled times. Which sucks, because I mean then there's like the Neo World program, which possibly could have saved Chisa depending on what's actually happened to the remnants of despair. We still don't know. Oh man. So yeah, he could have saved Chisa. You never know. And the fact that he didn't even think about it. The fact that he didn't even know that she was full of despair is what's even more messed up. Hearing Tengen's words, hearing the fact that it basically was the attacker alternates. I mean, it's that same general idea that the attacker can be anyone in the Future Foundation. I mean, it suggests like a few of the different theories. That actually does strongly coalesce with my remnants of hope theory, with the idea that it can be anyone who wakes up. Two of them wake up at the same time. One of them has to stab the other. That would perfectly work for what Tengen said. Or more strongly, especially with all the Chisa shade that's been going on. There's that big, strong theory that's going on right now that possibly every time someone wakes up, they end up killing themselves because the monitors play Ryota's despair anime, despair video, and lead them to commit suicide in their own unique ways. I mean, yeah, still a possibility. I'm not sure which one it is. That's the thing. They haven't really answered any of the questions in this. It's just kind of slowly leading us towards that finale. But yeah, man, the metaphors when Naegi and Munakata were talking. I mean, I kept getting distracted by Chisa and Tengen on this, but they said some incredible things. I especially liked when Makoto did say to Munakata, "You're only looking at despair." And we'd heard it throughout a bunch of episodes. He was constantly talking about, "Oh, you made me do this, despair." And in this episode, he was talking about how he wanted to save Makoto, but his way to do that was through killing him. Basically killing anyone who's infected with despair to save them. He thought he was being hope. He was just only looking at it from that dark side. And I mean, he even had that black eye. That perfect visual metaphor of him only seeing despair, only seeing the darkness. And as soon as Makoto's words got through to him, and he screamed, and that was powerful, man. Mad props to Munakata's voice actor. This is another one of the reasons I'm not going to be happy with the dub. Because I've heard his voice in the dub and I'm not liking it too much. But yeah, Munakata's scream at that point, it had so much emotion behind it. And then he cried his eyes out, opened them, and they were back to normal. So, you know, that was a bit of an arse pull, the fact that the drug wore off at that exact moment. But as a visual metaphor, it was perfect. That he's now looking at hope again. Makoto and Munakata are on the same page. And this is where it gets weird, because that's exactly what Chisa was talking about at the beginning of the episode. She was talking about how she wanted Black Hope and White Hope to understand each other, to work together. And now we're getting to that point where they are working together. I suppose it just all depends on what's going to be found out from Asahina's findings in Kyoko's notebook. I mean, if the Cure W really can save people, or if it's really a more advanced version that Seiko may have already produced, then that'll be good. They can save people, but she apparently knows who the attacker is as well. When Tengen literally said the attacker could be anyone, so maybe she means she knows how the attacker gets chosen or what gets done to the attacker. The thing is, it can't then be Ryota's anime that's doing it, because Ryota was still with Asahina all that time. Surely, if she figured out the attacker, he'd ask about it, and then he'd realise if he was about to get caught. So it must be, if anything else, somebody has stolen his work to make people do that. But I don't know. I'm still focusing on my Remnants of Hope theory, I'm not going to lie. I mean, we haven't seen Juzo this episode. We haven't seen his body, whereas we saw a lot of the other dead bodies. I mean, that was the other thing. A lot of people were very interested in the fact that the counter only went down by 3 between these last 2 episodes. So in episode 9, we had 9 people left alive. 4 people died in that episode. And then it only went down to 6 instead of 5. So the general idea is one of them is either still alive or didn't count as one of the participants. You could say that Mekagahara shouldn't have counted as a participant, but she had a wristband, so not really sure if she did count or not. There's the fact that Megumi Agata actually said that Juzo is 100% dead during Despaircast. But, you know, I'm starting to doubt that. With the fact that one of the people hasn't been marked off as dead. Unless Kyoko Kirigiri really did find a way to prevent her death. Like, maybe she used the Cure W before her code was meant to go off. I don't like that theory, because it would have meant that Seiko should have saved other people as well. She would have been able to if she got there early enough. So I don't like that theory, but it's a possibility. I prefer the idea that Sakakura is still alive, just about barely, and moving around the building somewhere. Oh man, especially since we have it hinted so heavily that he knew Chisa was in despair, that he let that go on. I mean, when Munakata stabbed Sakakura and said to him, "You know why." Maybe it was straight up that he knew about Chisa being in despair, but hid it to keep Chisa safe, and so let that despair infest the Future Foundation just because, obviously, he couldn't kill his waifu. I mean, there's this amazing fan art going around right now, which I've had on my Twitter. I'll put it in this video as well, with like Chisa on top of Sakakura and that. Not gonna lie, Thursday night, Friday, that was one of my worst thoughts that came to my head, was literally, oh, what if they reduce Chisa to this kind of thing where after everything goes down with like Chiaki in the 77th class, she then is used against Sakakura. That would be so horrible. Because I love Sakakura. But yeah, connecting to my theory and why I think Sakakura may still be alive, it's because he hasn't got his redemption yet. Like, he was such an asshole at the beginning of the anime. I wanted him to get a redemption arc, and he never did. Even after the stabbing, he never got any redemption. So I'm wondering if there's a small, slim possibility that even before Makoto Naegi stole the Neo World program and used it for the 77th class, what if Sakakura actually managed to steal the Neo World program for a bit and put Chisa in it? And take away her memories of being full of despair. And maybe that's how she then became the first remnant of hope and was able to make this killing game for the sake of hope. It's, you know, it's a ridiculous long shot at this point, but it's the one way my theory still works, and it gives Sakakura his redemption even post-mortem. Even if he doesn't come back and he is dead, if he managed to bring Chisa back from despair, like, that would be enough for him. That would be everything that he wanted, bringing his waifu back, getting her and Munakata back together, and he would have been stabbed as a traitor for nothing, even though he was actually trying to help all the time. So yeah, it was a good episode altogether. It was just, like I said at the beginning, there were a few things that let it down. I still really enjoyed this one. The fights were amazing. The dialogue between our two ultimate hopes was incredible. We've ended on so many cliffhangers. The final 2 episodes are going to be absolutely insane, man. And, you know, we've still got Ryota running around in the background just going, how is Naegi so strong? And just, like, not understanding it. Like, he's a pure Hope fanboy for some reason or another. So, you know, we really need to get to his story, the end of his story, either in Zetsubo or the conclusion of his story in Mirai-Hen, within those next 2 episodes too. But yeah, this was fantastic. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of Munakata, the Chisa reveal. Man, just everything, because there was a lot of good dialogue in this episode. Makoto's words in this one, they really did have power. They were amazing. And then, also just that reveal about Tengen's words, the little bits that were coming, all the cliffhangers. I mean, that's the one thing that I didn't talk about as well. The idea of this one boat leaving, like going away from the island. The only thing I can theorize is that somehow Hajime and the remnants of despair are now leaving the island. They've managed to either talk it out with the people that were supposed to be attack them, or they've already killed the people that were supposed to attack them, or maybe Byakuya's fleet had shown up and kept the peace somehow. I mean, one of my theories that was going on was that maybe this game, while it isn't being broadcasted to the whole world like they said it was being broadcasted to possibly Jabberwock Island, and that they could use that to show the people on the other boats and say, hey, Munakata's in danger, we need to get back there now, kind of thing. We're not the bad guys here, we really have been cured. Showing them the fact that Munakata has gone off the edge a little bit. And maybe after this point, where Munakata's been won over by Makoto Naegi, they're finally like, okay, let's let them go. And the remnants of despair are heading now to the Future Foundation to try and help. I don't know. I really don't know. And when it comes to the count thing of the survivors remaining going up by one, it could be that Byakuya Tagami fell down and is now in the Future Foundation building. It could be that Hagakure was counted all along and so there's only one extra person, or there could be 2 extra people if it turns out that actually, what's her face? Mekagahara was never being counted. Man, so much insanity. So I can't wait to see the next episode. It's going to be thrilling. This one wasn't amazing, but it was still powerful in moments. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this review, wreck that like button like you mean it. Subscribe if you haven't already to see more. And I will see you guys next time.